Hello, and welcome to Wired for Change, where we look at the people, technology.
About 10 years ago, I was working for a customer, quite a large customer, and we were working on selling them a new endpoint security solution. So I prepare all my facts, I came to present, I explained why they need to spend a very big amount of somewhat of money. I gave all the information, the technical, how small is the sensor, the agent, how it's update. And the person looked at me and told me, Evgeny, everything you describe right now is completely irrelevant to what I do day by day. I don't understand what you want from me. It all sounds very nice, but I'm not going to spend the amount of money you want me to spend because of what you told me. The power of the voice, the tone, the depth of your voice can change the conversation significantly. And I mentioned before about the speed and the cadence. Some people are slow, some people are faster. It took me a long time to understand how I can slow down. I usually a relatively very quick speaker, but I learned I need to slow down because of people, because of podcasts, because of many different things, and to have a bigger impact. So by understanding your voice, by understanding how you communicate, what do? Are you projecting your voice or you're kind of talking to yourself under your nose? Active listening, 100% active listening.
Oh, interesting.
My mind is so fast and I want to jump ahead and like, wait. And the worst part is that you start talking and I already know the answer.
Yes.
I want to cut you off and answer this. And you're like, WTF, Evgeny, like I didn't finish my idea. Like you have no respect to me. So, and this is true from your perspective. And I'm like, but I already know the answer. Like, why didn't you hear everything?
Hello, and welcome back to Wired for Change, where we explore the technology, people, and ideas reshaping our world. I'm your host, Amy Yee. So, what happens when the people who understand the problem can't get anyone else to understand why that problem matters? Technical expertise is essential in areas like cybersecurity, AI, and technology generally. But technical expertise alone doesn't create action. Ideas need to be understood, risks need to be communicated, and leaders often need to influence people whom they don't directly control. And increasingly, these days, teams need to be able to build connection and trust through screens, digital tools, and AI mediated environments. Our guest today is Evgeniy Kharam. He's had a career in cybersecurity that has spanned cybersecurity architecture, a very technical area, as well as some very important work on soft skills, which I find very interesting. And he's written a book that applies that to technical sales. But I think that we can probably both agree that there are so many things in life that comes down to sales and that ability to communicate, that there are a lot of lessons that are broadly applicable as well, which we'll look at today. So I see it as a critical capability for leadership, influence, and helping to drive change overall. Evgeny, welcome to Wired for Change.
Thank you. And thank you for a very, very warm introduction. And you mentioned sales. I think everything is in sales. I can easily talk about this idea because if you want to go for a dinner with your significant other, you need to sell the idea. If you're going to eat Italian, sushi, or steak, if you want to go maybe golfing or fishing with the boys, you need to sell the idea where you're going. Maybe you need to sell your idea to the kids, which location you're going to go. So if you think about this, even if you want an extra screen as a programmer or developer or anybody at work, you need to sell the idea to your manager. Why do you need an extra screen? Because you're going to increase your productivity, for example.
It is very true. And I realized that early in my career, but I wish that I had realized that even earlier. That idea of selling and being able to communicate, because you're right, it is applicable to so many areas of life. And you have to know your customer a little bit as well, I think, which is something that you talk about too.
Yes.
So, whether your customer is your significant other or your child in some cases, then that is something that's very important. I wanna take us back to, this idea of when did you first discover that, there was an importance to this and that it was something perhaps, to work on? Was there a particular experience or moment that made this clear to you?
Yes, there was one very, very defined moment, and interestingly enough, I was on a call with someone literally just before this show, and this episode came because apparently the person I've been talking with worked with the same customer and had a very interesting experience with the same person I had. About 10 years ago, I was working for a customer, quite a large customer, a very important customer, on what they do and the ways they need to communicate and be available. And we were working on selling them a new endpoint security solution. So I prepare all my facts. I came to present. I explain why they need to spend a very big amount of some amount of money. I gave all the information, the technical, how small is the sensor, the agent, how it's update. And the person looked at me and told me, Evgeny, everything you describe right now is completely irrelevant to what I do day by day. I don't understand what you want from me. It all sounds very nice, but I'm not going to spend the amount of money you want me to spend because of what you told me.
Hmm.
Go home, have a wine, talk to your friends, talk to your spouse, come back to me in 3 days, and speak the language I understand. And this was an aha moment for me because I was selling in the language I understood. Beats, bytes, technical. I didn't talk the business language the person understood. So I came back and we spoke about loss of productivity, what's going to happen if they're going to be compromised, how much money is they going to lose if this is going to happen, how much they will lose in case people not available to work. Completely different way to communicate on his language. And I personally don't like the idea of simplification. Some
Mhm.
people say, I like the idea that we need to talk the language as a person understand. This could be this could be simple, this could be business, this could be sales, marketing, whatever the other person. And it pretty much opening quite a large funnel because how do you know what is the other language the person understand and what they want? Communication, sales, understanding, creating connection, rapport, curiosity. There's a lot of acronyms we can talk about it here.
Amazing. And so it sounds like this person you were trying to communicate with gave you some advice to go back and think about this and again come back again. How did you figure that out? Like how did you figure out, what language you needed to speak for this person? Did you get advice from other people? Did you do some research? Like was it trial and error?
It was a because I was like, okay, you're a business person. You're not pure cyber. I knew about this part. This person always argue about the value and the money and what's going on. So I kind of asked, okay, what does this person care about? What is his responsibility? What are his metric towards the company? Okay, it's operational, it's money, it's the spend, it's the budget. So it was a combination of my research, my understanding, me taking everything I know and can go out and looking on the problem from a different view. And this is another part that people forget to do. What if I take from a micro and go to macro? No, birds view, 50,000 foot view on the problem, or trying to sit on the other person table, chair, and look on this from his perspective. So it's an interesting mechanism. What I care, what they care, and it slowly, slowly build me on what I'm missing. And at the same time, talking to my peers, talking to other C-level people that maybe had such experience, or telling them what I did and asking for feedback.
It was nice that this person gave you a second chance too, because we don't always get a second chance to to convey an explanation to
No,
someone, right?
no. But in this case, I do want to reiterate because I don't want to sound like forget about technical skills and we'll talk about soft skills, hard skills. Because one of the reasons I got a second chance, because like he told me, Evgeny, I know that you're smart. I know you've been helping us for the last few months. I know what you've been doing. So I already built the credibility on a technical part. I didn't build the credibility on the communication, the business value.
I also like the point that you made around it's not just simplifying something, it's about speaking the same language. It's not, dumbing anything down or anything like that. It's just about not speaking the same language or having the same priorities, right?
Yes. And it's important to understand this part. And it's important how do we get to the same language? And I can maybe jump ahead a bit,
Sure.
but sometimes people like, you ask me, how do you know? Like, how do you know what to do? And as funny as it is, what about asking? Can I just ask you, Amy, what is the best way for me to communicate to you? What is the best way? What is the information you want? Do you want me to speak about it? Do you want to have slides? You want me to show you what I did wrong? So by asking for guidance or guide somebody else, this is one of the very interesting and simple parts of soft skills or communication that people forget. And for this, we need to get a bit of out of the comfort zone. We need to be curious. Like, oh, then people don't really understand me because I don't speak the same language. And this is part of very smart people because the assumption, if I understand this, you also understand this. You kind of inside my head, you reading my souls.
That's right, and I guess curiosity helps to set you up for that, and it resonates with me very well, what you're saying about, asking someone, what will resonate, best with them, what was the best method to communicate with them, and understanding them better, from a user experience perspective, that's all, about understanding the user and their experience and what they're getting out of it. So that's very interesting, and I'm sure it often works.
I think it works in majority of the
Mhm.
cases if it's done correctly. And correctly, it's also like reading correctly. You cannot just meet you, hi, how you doing? Tell me how to win this deal.
It's true. Yeah. Good
Mm,
point.
mm, but like if we take it to the I hope everyone had the experience of dating. Not like you said, meet someone and you're like, check, check, check. Okay, can we get married? No, there is something happening. There is a game. There is some kind of play. There is communication. There is small talk, and small talk is not always how's the weather. Are you in Toronto? You're trying to find the hook. You're trying to find something more interesting, and it's harder to do when we're doing this remotely as well.
It
So there is multiple things there.
There are many things that we can unpack here, even with your example that you gave earlier about you had it wasn't your first time meeting that customer who gave you that second chance. You had built some trust with them already so that they understood that you had the technical expertise, for example, and you kind of earned your second chance in a way, right? Because you can't always just go to a client and say, "All right, tell me all your problems." You have to earn that a little bit as well, or tell me the best way to communicate with you. Um, do you agree that you have to, there's a balance and there's a bit of a dance, as you said, in dating, right? You don't get everything you want just by asking, like on the first date either, right?
And you cannot ask, like, if you meet a customer for a sales meeting, technical meeting, and you just bombard them with questions, they will get fatigued.
That's right. Yeah.
So you need to be able to, we always tell people like stories in presentations. Yes, but you can tell a story and sometimes stop and ask a question. You can sometimes ask your opinion. So you kind of probing every time to understand what you can get, that the customer will want to talk to you. And the customer will talk more the more you will do it about them. You will understand what's going on. You will make it interesting for them. You will not tell how great you are or how great is the company. And there is also a part of how you're doing it as well because I can be very monotone and talk about like that for the last 15 minutes, and you're going to tell you what's going on in the beginning because it's completely not interesting. Or I can be more articulated and say, "Hi, I'm working for this company, and my company is this and this." And like, oh, you actually care about this company. Like, I see that your energy, your behavior is fully represented. You're fully engaged, and you believe in this brand. You're not just trying to sell a car that you don't want to get rid of it because it's a bad car. You fully believe in the brand. So this part is also people not stupid. People will see that you fake, eventually.
Now, I don't want to be stereotypical, but do you think that in cybersecurity, sometimes this can be a challenge for people to bring that energy, to bring that enthusiasm, or to communicate, effectively, or to have those soft skills? Do you think in cybersecurity this is a challenge in particular that you've seen a lot, or do you think this is broadly applicable to all technical industries?
I think it's applicable to all the technical industries, and it's also dependent on the person. Unfortunately, we see people that change jobs every 2 years, and like, oh my God, this is the best sliced bread, or this is the best, whatever it is. And some people like, are you there only for the money, or you actually care about customer? Now, it is hard. Honestly, it is very hard because people raising money, the investors and the board wants to them to make money as a company. So they're pushing them to sell more, to do more. So there is a part, are you care about a customer, but you also care about your family. So it's a bit of a gray area and it's hard. But if you working in the industry, if you are selling, if you're a technical person, I really hope that you're passionate about what you do and you think you're doing something good for the greater good world, and you're not just trying to sell something that nobody wants and nobody used.
As an observer, so have you seen a lot of, technically solid ideas fail because they weren't, well communicated?
100%.
Yeah.
Many of them failed from a perspective, sometimes too early, sometimes the people not ready, but in majority of the cases, talk to someone, it doesn't. So what do you guys do? He's like, I send you a document. I was like, excuse me? Like, yeah, it's on a document. He's like, this is great, but I just ask you what we do on a call. Why would not explain to me what you do? Is it in a document? Or it was very interesting communication with someone that he was the CTO, still the CTO of a company. And I'm like, okay, pitch me. And he's like, I don't pitch. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I do demo. I was like, who's pitching? Oh, my CEO. Great, but it's your idea, it's your implementation. Like, yes, but you don't know how to explain. He's like, yo, I can. So he started explaining. He's like, no, this is very complicated what you're doing right now. So after half an hour back and forth, we were able to explain his idea using metaphors
Mhm.
in a way that everyone will understand. He's like, okay, now I understand what you're talking about. Because if I'm telling you I'm secure your phone against something malicious, it's like, what are you talking about? But if I tell, hey, do you know, remember in the news, a very high executive, his phone got hacked? Like, yes, what we do will prevent this. It's like, oh, okay, this is simple enough. Okay. Without going to full details. So there is a way to do it back to communication people understand. Can I create some kind of a metaphor? One of my favorite one is when somebody asking about cybersecurity, I'll tell about the house.
Mhm.
Now, cybersecurity is a very big topic in general, but I'm saying I usually dealing with architecture and solution architecture. It's mean many different vendors putting it together to protect a house. The way we protect a human being and a big enterprise is different. But if we take a house, we have a fence, we have a window, we have a door, we have a dog, we have a camera, and each of these function can do something and cannot do something else. A camera can see a bad guy, but cannot stop the bad guy. A fence can stop a bad guy until the bad guy will jump up across the fence. Dog will be more active. So there is different components, same in cybersecurity. Now we can take a firewall, endpoint security, DDoS protection, and many, many other parts. The way we're explaining this, that it's closer to people, they can understand right now what we do.
Absolutely, and it's another superpower, is the ability to, provide analogies and metaphors for, things that might be hard for people to understand or to really help them understand that, in a way that connects with them. That's a leadership skill, as well, and I remember I had a mentor, in my, in as I became an executive, and he was incredible at it, and so I kinda studied it and I practiced it, and after, knowing him for a while, it was something that I continue to work on, moving forward. And so similar to, in your field, it's something that, I
What
regard
did
as
you
a gift
do?
as well. What did I
So
do? I
yeah, what, so you mentioned study. So maybe for people that listening to us right now, they're like, this is interesting. How can I do that? What did you do to yourself to be able to become better in storytelling, metaphors, ideas?
First of all, I think you need to be able to understand the concept very well yourself. You can't come up with a good, story or metaphor if you don't really understand it on your own, like the technical side or the leadership side, whatever that concept is you're trying to understand. I think it helps if you really get it. And then secondly, I think it takes a lot of practice as well to because it if you're not used to doing it, you have to be a bit brave about it and creative about it, as well. You have to see what works, and just continually just try to do it. For some people, it comes very naturally, I find. I know some people for whom it's a real sort of gift where they can't even talk without giving you at least 3 analogies every time they're telling you something. And it's a lot of fun to listen to them. But I think, as you go on, you get better at it because you get feedback from people about whether or not they understood and whether or not they're able to apply that, to their own situation. Those are just some thoughts that I had off the top of my head. What do you
I
think?
100% agree with you. Practice make it perfect.
Mhm,
You cannot learn to ride a bicycle on PlayStation or in virtual reality. You actually have to do it.
mhm,
And some of the small things, the tricks or exercise that help me, that literally takes minutes. And this is very good to practice with people on team meetings, for example. And the idea came from Toastmasters. You
mhm.
put a random word and you have a minute to describe this word. Okay, a car. What is a car? Enterprise, firewall, camera, intelligence, whatever it is. But now I put you on the spot and you have to talk for a minute. That's the interesting part because they actually only get allowed to talk for 1 minute to describe this particular word. So you're communicating and learning communicating. One, you need to come up on your feet very quickly to describe something. Two, you have to be precise and to the point under 1 minute. And this gives you different views on these parts. And to add to what you were saying, that I'm 100% agree, is the moment you start learning different domains, hobbies, parts of life, now you have examples you can apply from somewhere else. If you learn about how golf is played, basketball, surfing, whatever it is, you can give some examples from other fields. Because if we're doing an analogy, you need to understand the other field as well.
That's true, that's a great point. You have to be able to connect, like, the different fields or areas or, play different games so that you can pull analogies from those, and it helps if there are things that are commonly or well understood by your audience as well, so most people will understand what a house is. So, what a submarine looks like, though, they might not understand a submarine as easily, depending on where you're from.
Where are you from? Yes.
Excellent. And then so conversely, I wanted to ask as well if you've seen, ideas that are not as technically solid, gain a lot of traction because they were well communicated.
Yes, because the salesperson, the storyteller, or even the CTO was able to create story, was able to have a hook, a story, the reason, and what's happening. We see many cases about devices, products that been sold by twice of the cost because the story was amazing, because the person that was buying got emotionally connected, for example,
Mhm,
or saw the problem. But I think building a story, building a foundation, it's very important. Palo Alto Networks,
mhm,
when they started, the story how they came, how Near was one of the pioneers of the first next gen firewall, like not next gen firewall, first firewall from a checkpoint, stateful firewall, and then he spent time in Juniper, and this all led him to create a Palo Alto and the problem he saw. CrowdStrike, Dimitri went to McAfee, had an idea. McAfee didn't want it. He left McAfee. He went to create own CrowdStrike. So the story, the history, how he came to a problem, I think it's very important. Like even the company where I work called Discern Security, our founders came from McAfee. They built the first management for McAfee. Now we build the management for cybersecurity. So we always roll the history when we present. We explain how we came here because it's build trust. Like, oh, you just came out with an idea, but you have no history, no kind of ways to do it in the past. So definitely important when we have a nice, interesting story while we're doing what we're doing.
Everything you're talking about is something that, I recognize and resonates, very well with me in the conversations that I've had. Given the importance of soft skills, do you think there's even, something that we underestimate about, their importance because we call them soft skills as opposed to hard skills? Do you think the name soft skills, like, doesn't do it
So
justice?
a lot of people don't like the term soft
Mhm,
skills. They say it's supposed to be communication skills. Some people say leadership skills. I strongly disagree about leadership skills
mhm,
because it's mean if I'm not a leader, I'm not supposed to learn how to communicate. So this
mm,
is
mhm,
not, I think, even more important that if you're a developer, if you're a deeply technical person, that you need to have the skills sometimes more than a leader, because you're probably not going to be a leader if you're not going to get them in the beginning.
Mhm.
So people call them human skill, people skills. It's at the end of the day, it's a name. Why I like the name soft skills? Because in my mind, hard skills is a repeatable things we do. Mathematics, chemistry, mechanics. We're doing something that we expect in most of the cases the same result. With soft skills or communication in general, it's not the case,
Mhm.
because I may tell you something today and it will be okay. But then if we can continue communicating, your mind will go somewhere else. Or if we're going to talk to you and you will step in a paddle while you're walking, suddenly everything changed. You're not with me. Something happened to you. If I continue my idea in the same way, you're not going to take it or not going to receive my idea and not resonate to you, because you're not there. Right now, you're thinking about your wet pants or your new shoes, for example.
So all the other thoughts might be entering someone's mind at that time. And, I want to ask as well, like, do you have a way of checking in to see if someone's mind has wandered or if they're understanding like what you're uh, trying to provide to them in terms of communication? Or, do you pause to like check in and ask, is everything I'm saying making sense? Like, how do you detect whether or not you might need to stop and change tactics, for instance?
Good question. And it really will depend if we're communicating face to face,
Mhm.
if we're communicating over Zoom, Google's Teams, and if the camera is on or not. Because if the camera is off, I don't see your eyes right now. I don't know what you're doing. It's going to be very hard for me to do. I will have to be more diligent, much more diligent, to understand if you're with me. If you're face to face, it's much easier because you probably going to maintain eye contact with me. And if you see your eye contact is going somewhere else, it means that I bored out of your mind, for example. Or maybe you don't like my voice. Or maybe I'm too fast for you and I'm speaking very, very quickly. Maybe I'm too slow for you. That may drive you nuts, for example. Could be anything. So really not to be self-aware, like you cannot just be into yourself about how everything is great. Before that, I was talking about the energy, how we present, but in the same time, I need to check what's going on with you. So I need to start and maybe ask you some probing question. Hey, I would like to show you my amazing AI vacuum cleaner. Do you want me to tell you about it? Do you want me to show you how it's working? Or maybe go try it. So I need to build the way to see how to engage you and probe you, as I mentioned before. And I'll stop usually after a minute or two, and I'll ask any questions, a typical one. But I sometimes be very bold. Is this interesting for you? Or if I'm starting with somebody very, very cold, I will tell them right away, I understand you don't know what to do. Give me 5 minutes. I'll explain what's going on. And if there's interest, awesome. If there is no interest, I'll tell you thank you and we went separate ways. You're like, amazing. I love it. And I'll stop after 5 minutes. Like, are we continuing? Is this interesting? Do you want me to pivot back to guidance? I'm going to ask them what they want to see. And this is the important part for me. If I'm asking you, Amy, do you enjoy this conversation? Or is something I can show you different? And I'm being quiet, then I'll actually expect you to answer.
Mhm.
I'll be quiet. And this such a strange pause to wait, because I'm putting you in a very uncomfortable situation.
Mhm.
And you may tell me yes, or yes, but I really would love you to go here or there, or maybe no. And it's totally fine. People forget that if we spend 10 minutes together and you don't want to buy, not interested, why to spend more time?
Mhm.
Why to waste their time and your time as well? Getting to know much earlier make total sense. It's not because your solution is bad, maybe there's a not total fit, or maybe there's something else. So constantly checking and probing and understanding and trying to get what's going on. Different methodologies from people on the ways they sell. But I'm right now talking about the communication part to understand if they're interested in what we're doing and how we're doing that. May not work for everyone because, in the end of the day, some people are more closed up, more open up, and they may don't want to voice what's going on. So you will need to squeeze it from them, and pause may help. So multiple ways to do it. As everything else, there is no one silver bullet. There is no one or zero. We need to adapt and understand.
Do you find that cybersecurity sales conversations can be particularly, challenging for people because maybe they feel like, okay, well, first of all, they're uncomfortable because they know that it's a sales conversation of some kind. Secondly, they may not understand the technical, side of it. And maybe there are other reasons as well where it can be, something that you really do need to pay a lot of attention to.
Yes, and maybe no, maybe yes. I'll try to explain. One part, they can be very technical,
Mhm,
and when you go to a customer, you always may think, oh, another cybersecurity solution that solves everything.
mhm,
So how not? How you say, I'm not solving everything, but I'm solving a particular problem. And I mentioned the idea of hooks before that, and a personal connection as well. I firmly believe that I should do my best to connect with you somehow before I try to pitch you. This could be as small as which camera we're looking for, to as you and me spoke. I'll talk about voice, communication, or sound, but something that connect between us because it gives a better chance that the other person will remember who you are.
mhm,
If you read some of the studies about virtual meetings, we apparently remember less people's faces over Zooms versus if we meet them face to face.
mm. I didn't know that. It makes sense, but I didn't know that. I hadn't read the
And if
study.
you reflect on your meetings, physical and Zoom, you're like, oh, I do remember these people more versus just having Zoom call and then you meet them on the street. You may not don't remember who they are
Mhm,
because they may be shorter, taller, whatever it is. So it's important to figure out how to connect and how to sell them before, how not to sound too marketing,
mhm,
how not to sound, oh my God, we can do everything and kind of overstretch what's going on. And at the same time, back to the language I understand. You may talk to someone that is governance and compliance. They could be very attuned to this language and going to be less attuned if you talk to them about incident response and forensic analysis.
mhm.
Or maybe if you talk to someone about the intelligence or vulnerabilities. So how do you know what is the correct language to use and adapt your use cases to the problem you're solving?
Now, I'd like to take that a little bit more broadly now to other kinds of conversations that, happen in cybersecurity. So, in cyber, more broadly, how much of, the security risk is actually a communication problem of some kind?
This is a very good question. And I'm kind of thinking about this right now
Mhm,
because it is a big problem. If I didn't communicate correctly about a problem, so let's say I'm going to get asking for a budget because I want to buy a new patching tool. And I tell, hey, Amy, hi, how are you? So we have this patching problem and we would like $500,000. Like, what? Where? No, is we're able to communicate the risk. Again, I'm very simplifying right now,
mhm,
but now we're kind of at the beginning of the show. Are we all in sales? At the end of the day, somebody is trying to sell me a patching tool from outside. But now I need to go and sell the same patching tool or different patching tool inside my company. Why? Not just because I want a patching tool, because there's a risk in my company with vulnerabilities that are coming out and I need to be on time to patch. Because if I'm not going to patch, the AI will come and kill me and eat everything. Okay.
yeah.
So now I need to create the idea of why we're doing this, what the risk, and what's going on, and how potentially back on the conversation. Do we just need it, or if we're not going to do it, we're going to lose a lot of money? What if you're working in a medical company or hospital, and if you're not going to on time patch the correct servers, and they will be vulnerable and they will go down my microscope will not work, my MRI machine will not work,
Mhm.
or something else.
Yes. That ability to translate it again to, the language that that person speaks, whether they're on the cybersecurity side or at the board level, is going to be a different type of communication.
So here is a simple question that people are listening to us right now. And if you work for a company, think about this. Actually, two questions. One, what are the crown jewels? Like, what is the mechanism for your company that you think it's very important? Because if you're going to ask different people in the company, everyone will say something else.
Mhm.
For the company, think like if your CRM is down, are you actually not making money? Or if your website is down, what it will basically shut down the company from making money right now. And if your company is not making money by serving the customers, not producing widgets or whatever it is, how much money would you lose an hour or a day? It's not an easy question to answer, but the moment you figure out this part, it may become your ammunition to go back to the management, back to the board to explain why do you need a new firewall, web application firewall, patching tool, new ice cream machine, whatever you want to pitch for the new year.
Mhm, mhm. Very important. And it's good to have those formulas, as well to understand, well, what's the right question to ask? And then also the getting there is important. So getting there together to understand the thinking, behind that and the questioning of why do we think this, is important as well. What are your assumptions, beneath that? So that everyone can get on the same page. That's great. So I wanna turn now to AI. So we've talked about how important soft skills, are just, generally and contextually within sales and then within other conversations that are had in cybersecurity and the ability to influence. Some people would say now that in the era of AI, soft skills are even more important than before. Do you think that this is the case? Has anything changed that way or not changed? What do you think?
If I'm communicating with machine, device, agentic AI, or quote unquote, and in majority of the cases, it tell me how great I am, do I really get a true answer? And if I'm communicating with all my problems and everything with this particular LLM, we're going to have a different perspective. And you may say yes if you control it correctly. If you tell act as this, you may get different problems. But coming back to you walking on the street and stepping into the paddle, and now everything is changed in the communication, AI is not the same. It will answer similarly in majority of the cases if you're going to ask the same question. And if I ask it a feedback on something and you ask feedback on something, we'll probably get very similar information. We could have a claim because of the memory and what we did before. It's going to be different context. But with humans, it's way, way different. Depend on the time of the day, depend what happened in the house, depend what's going on. There's going to be always, always some kind of variety of how the same question will be answered or the feedback you're going to get. Would you really want to go ask for a raise after your manager flew for 24 hours from India or Europe or Thailand and they're very tired? Or they may potentially just came back out of sickness. Or maybe they came back from vacation and they're very happy and just told you, how great it was a vacation, so they're in a good mood. There's a lot of parts that you want to understand, and just giving you small examples. Now, you mentioned curiosity. I think curiosity for me is one of the most important soft skills there. Why? Because if I'm not curious about the other person, I'm not gonna able to research the person. I'm not gonna able to actively listening to the person. I'm not able to create a way to emphasize and be empathic to you as well. Is AI empathic to us? We can claim. Is it actively listening? We can claim, but we don't always know based on what the information we're going to get. If you're just trying to be nice to us and say how great you are, or we'll give you real feedback, not just because you ask us for real feedback, because it's thinking to give you real feedback. So think about that. When you ask grill me, it will grill you, correct?
Mhm,
But if you're not going to ask it, would it actually grill you?
mhm.
When you say, okay, you're an agent that needs supposed to check my emails for good and for bad, you still give the information. But with friends, with family, with other people, they may just like stop you and say, what are you doing? What are you telling me? Why are you telling me this? Why do you want to send this angry email to this person? What is the context? Did you ever think about this? Or vice versa? There's a lot of going on in the human mind that I honestly don't know when AI is going to catch up. None of us can make a claim that it will or will not, but we definitely can see many examples where AI failed with this part. Now let's take a different approach. You as a leader gave feedback to someone, or I did it, or you did it to me. I can go now to AI and say, Amy told me, nah, 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 and now ask AI to be a psychologist and kind of say we are. So now we have a very dangerous part because now we can understand, is my management acting correctly?
Hmm.
So we can play differently because if I give correct information to AI, if I tell it right away what I want and tell the transcription of a conversation, I may get information about what happened to you during this moment and why you're thinking this part. So there is a way to play with it that could be dangerous as well. They need to understand because it may play differently for other people.
Hmm.
Why I'm saying this, there is a bit of a helper here to digest information, but at the end of the day, even this part is very subjective to what AI is saying. So we shouldn't trust AI on everything it's saying, the way it's interpreting, and just say, oh, AI told me this, why I'm doing that.
Yes, that ability to, hone and exercise our own judgment in these situations is going to be very important. I think it's one of the few things that we have left. Sometimes what I think, um, and it was funny what you were saying about asking your boss for a raise as well, and kind of judging his mood. It made me think that when you are with your significant other, you're probably very good at being strategic about when you ask for certain things as well. And it reminded me of when I was a little girl, and I would try to judge, is my father in a good mood or a bad mood before I ask him for something as well. And that context is not always something that the AI is going to have, and how you exercise your own judgment in these situations, the patterns that you've seen in the past. That's all data that you may be accessing
Yes.
without realizing it even. So I think that's interesting. Now, on the topic of curiosity, um, do you think that, there's a possibility that AI is sort of reducing our knack for being curious? Do you think that we're losing any of that curiosity, or do you think that it's freeing us up to be more curious about things because the information is so readily available? Is that something we have to practice?
Yeah, from my perspective, we need to think about, do we have the curiosity?
Hmm.
Like, do you care? And like, honestly, right now, when I talk to someone, they're like, hey, so did you do anything with ChatGPT or Claude? It's like, no, no, it's not really mine. And they're like, how not? You never even ask AI to draw a picture of a cat. Like my kids, like the moment the idea of Nana Banana came in ChatGPT images, they're like, I can draw any cat I want. It's like, yes. Like the mind just blew away, just like trying to do multiple things. So if you have the curiosity, you can use AI in many different ways to explore this idea or do research quickly. Of course, sometimes you can go to a rabbit hole and forget about everything else because we're now so in depth doing that. So I don't think AI killed the curiosity.
Hmm.
I think it can make it, in some cases, go faster and find whatever you're curious about. Question if it's the correct answer or not. So we need to validate. The other part that I think more problematic is if you don't have the curiosity, or how do we develop the curiosity? We spoke before about how we develop analogies, how we develop storytelling, because without them, we're not going to go anywhere. So how we develop curiosity? How do we find what you care about? And I truly believe everyone care about something. And if you find that with the interest and we start uncovering this, then we will able to, like a Pandora box, open, 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 and find more and more information. So I don't have anything like bad or good AI curiosity. I think we can go faster with AI if we use it correctly. You know, so
How about our ability to sit with a problem and just kind of think about it without rushing to ask AI or get the answers, for something and then run with those answers? Do you think that's also, part of the art of
but
really
yeah,
internalizing?
this is a problem. I agree. You kind of putting a very interesting problem because we used to spend time to understand how to approach the problem. So there is something broken in technical, and you need to peel the onion layer by layer to understand what's happening. Doesn't have to be technical. This could be your life as well. This could be something else. But if I have something and I blindly ask AI, what is this? And AI did all the tests and just gave me the answers that I didn't learn how we got to this. Back into school, it's not enough to solve the mathematical problem. You need to show how you got there as well, correct?
Yes.
So
Well, at
we
least
do you
you did
want
in
to
my day. I don't know if you
yes.
still need that now.
According to my kids, yes. Uh,
Okay.
so this is still important. And we do want to understand that sometimes there's trial and error, how to get and connecting these dots, because by connecting the dots, we understand the mechanism. If we jump from here to here, if we see an ice cream and we don't understand that's back in the days there was a cow that we took the milk from there, then like, okay, it's just an ice cream or it's a steak, it's not like we like came out of the store. There's actually a process how to get there, whatever it is. So there is interesting way to build connections. Like if there is no rain, we may have no fruits. Why?
Mhm.
And because we need to understand this part. So I think this part is very important to understand the cause and the chain of reaction of the sequences of events.
How do you think AI is going to change cybersecurity sales in the next, 5 years from the perspective of someone who understands kind of that sales conversation?
It in way will let companies to develop solutions much faster. In the same time, the companies will try to go back and develop solutions in-house because they can wipe code something right now
Mhm.
and it's easier. It doesn't mean it's going to be cheaper, but it's going to be easy on the surface to develop. The problem is usually to the maintenance. But the way AI will change is we will able to adapt faster. We will able to create the features the customers are working faster as well. And we have no choice because if the AI exists for everyone, it means the bad guys already using AI to find the vulnerabilities, to find the needle in the stack, to find the hole in defense in depth, to attack the good guys. So we need to close the holes and the gaps faster, react faster. There were stories about the bad guys being in a company for 200 days. Right now, we're talking about the bad guys can get in and compromise data under minutes.
Mhm.
So if I don't have the correct tool to be able to find this information, and we're no longer talking about a human don't have the information. The human just don't have enough time to store this information. That we will need the tier ones to be, in a way, AI agents, maybe not full, but they just understand the data and react to the data very, very quickly.
Okay. Okay. Well, there are a lot of things that are changing around us and moving, faster and faster in a lot of ways, and there's certainly a lot to consider. What is, I guess, under our control, at least for now, continues to be, our own voices and how we come across. And I know that we spoke at the beginning of the show about our podcast voices, how that might
Yes.
sound. But also, just to think about our own individual voices. And you've done some work on, your voice and presentation and how you come across as well. And you've presented on this, I know. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this for a while. I guess, what are people kind of responding to, in people's voices? And what do people sometimes underestimate about their own voice and how they come across?
Wow. Separate show that we can probably spend another show on this, okay? But we'll try to be relatively precise here under time. The power of the voice, the tone, the depth of your voice can change the conversation significantly. And I mentioned before about the speed and the cadence. Some people are slow, some people are faster. It took me a long time to understand how I can slow down. I usually a relatively very quick speaker,
Mhm.
but I learned I need to slow down because of people, because of podcast, because of many different things, and to have a bigger impact. So by understanding your voice, by understanding how you communicate, what do? Are you projecting your voice or you're kind of talking to yourself under your nose? It's all also showing about your confidence and what's going on. And are you comfortable talking about this problem? People in majority of the cases afraid of their voices. And also back to studies, majority of us, and I want to ask you this, don't like their voice on recording. It took me about 6 to 8 months be comfortable with my voice on recording, but there is actually not a medical, just a physiological part that the way we listen to ourselves and the way we listen to a recording is different. So it takes time to adapt. And then there's a filler words, there's pauses, there are so many different things that are involved as part of the voice. So it's become very, very interesting. Even the breathing mechanism. If I breathe, you know, a lot, it's going to be on the microphone. If I use my diaphragm, my voice will be higher or lower as well. There's a lot of small components, but we all know sometimes we listen to these people like, oh my God, I just love your voice.
Mhm.
And sometimes not because people's voices are different.
It's true, it's very true, and so, I guess I wasn't comfortable with with my voice for a while, even though I've taken voice lessons and singing when I was, much younger and spent time doing that. It was difficult for me to listen to my own voice in my early podcasts, but I think that I got used to it over time, and I've had so many people provide positive feedback on it, and thank you to everyone who has done that, that I have been more comfortable with it, over time, but it is something, that most people, have to work through, I think. It's really interesting.
And the good part, it's possible. If you don't like your own voice right now from a variety of reasons, there's a good chance that you just don't like it and nothing wrong with your voice. You can, as you mentioned, take your voice lessons, take in thinking lessons, talk to your friends, not not always ask AI, but even so sometimes, yes. I don't, yeah, I don't, and try to understand what's going on there. Here's the interesting part that is related to state of mind. When you're fully relaxed, your voice will sound different as well. When you're confident, your voice will sound different. When you're under pressure or you don't know the topic, you mentioned about the knowledge of the topic, you will cut what's going on. You will speed up. There is variety of ways. And I'm talking about speeding up because not because you usually speak quickly, it's just because you're trying to take everything out. So by learning on how to reduce stress, by learning how to be more comfortable and more relaxed, the analogy, back to analogies I like to make is when you open your laptop and you open your browser and there's 25,000 tabs there and you want to open another tab, you don't have enough CPU. So the same is your mind. When you have so many things happening in your mind, what about my voice? How am I going to communicate? You basically fool your mental CPU with bad things. But if you learn how to relax, slow down your breathing, slow down your heart rate, your clarity will go there. You will remove all this. And now you can focus on how do I breathe? How do I speak? Where do I pay attention? If I'm monotone or not monotone? Do I do pauses instead of saying, hi, I'm Evgeny, today I will able to actually pause because I have enough CPU capacity to understand I'm using filler words. And I was able to see very clearly with very good speakers. The moment we're switching from the topics they know really well to something unknown, they become because they need time to think and process. Very hard to take a breath, slow down, pause, reflect, and answer.
Now, I don't know if you've done the research on this, but I'm curious. Are some of these things that you're talking about universal regardless of culture and language? Or is there some, are there some languages and cultures where this is, is expressed differently?
I didn't did full research. It's an interesting topic, but from my podcasting and my communication, very, very similar. There is some people maybe have more or different filler words or the ways they communicate or using the hands, for example. But usually under being nervous, having an accent when English is not the first language, create more anxiety. The more anxieties you have, the more bad tabs you have in your brain, the more your brain CPU is full of the stuff that doesn't help you, that need to be removed. And there's techniques that doesn't cost you anything that in my mind are very effective to do.
Now, you brought up a topic that I do want to ask you about, which is that you've spoken publicly on the idea of accent anxiety and how that impacted you. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how it showed up for you professionally, how it impacted you, and what you did about that?
So I'm a second-time immigrant. English is my third language. When I moved from Israel to Canada, I was very afraid. So think about the public speaking is already quite dramatic for a lot of people. People have a
Mhm.
lot of fear. Now, at the part where English is not your primary language, you have an accent and you're afraid you maybe pronounce something incorrectly or you're going to have a mistake in the grammar. So it adds up. So even as a simple part of introducing yourself in a company kickoff or with the customers may bring a lot of anxiety. And this was one of my challenges. I was very afraid I will make a mistake. People will not understand me. I will mess up somewhere. So this very, very hard part. And this has impacted me. I was so how much nervous I am during meetings. And I'm thinking like a monkey, reversing what I want to say, make sure I know it correctly, even so it's maybe like two sentences. Instead of let it go and not trying to be perfect and trust my mind that I will find and have the correct sentence, correct word when my turn is there.
I have so much admiration for people who speak publicly or deliver presentations in other languages that are not their native language. I have trouble doing it in French, for example. I can relate very well. Even though I spent many years studying French, I'm so nervous about speaking it and presenting in public.
But think about that. Think about that. So here's the interesting part. People judge themselves so much
Mhm.
when they present. They judge themselves so much, back to the tops. They just basically forget about many other things. Majority of the presenters are not perfect. In most of the cases, we're not comparing ourselves with the Hollywood stars. But when you see someone presenting, sometimes stumble, laughing on themselves, move forward, having a joke, like, oh, this person is real. When I grew up, when I change, when I'm ready, I can be like Amy. But if you present yourself, if you try to compare yourself with somebody from Hollywood, it's like, no, you're never going to be there. So the moment you
Okay.
understand that making mistakes is part of human being, it's totally fine. If you're like a robot making everything perfect, but you're not human, people not going to connect with you. People not going to resonate with you. Not going to admire you.
I think that's great. It's a great thing to model and to talk about and have more conversations about as people are trying to develop themselves. I wonder, for you, what, soft skill was the hardest for you personally to develop?
Ooh, this is an interesting one. Active listening, 100% active listening.
Oh,
My
interesting.
mind is so fast and I want to jump ahead and like, wait. And the worst part is that you start talking and I already know the answer.
Yes.
I want to cut you off and answer this. And you're like, WTF, Evgeny, like I didn't finish my idea. Like you have no respect to me. So, and this is true from your perspective. And I'm like, but I already know the answer. Like, why didn't you hear everything? So, me learning to respect the other person and let them finish the idea, even so I already think I know the answer, is was very, very hard for me. And it's related to respect. It's related to communication. It's related to let people finish their ideas. Because if I don't let them finish their ideas, they feel unaccomplished. So sometimes still very hard. And I need to learn back to the tabs in my mind to have a watchdog. Like, wait, wait. Everybody need to have their turn.
Yes, you have to provide space for other people and to help give them ownership of that space and of the conversation and what you're discussing. So I get that. That's interesting. And I have seen that in very smart people who think very fast. So I hear you on that. Just before we close off our episode today, I do want to take a few minutes to talk about your book, Architecting Success. And I always love the word architecting in anything. The Art of Soft Skills in Technical Sales. Now, why did you write this book?
Multiple things. One, COVID came and I saw how we lose the focus when talking to people. Two, when I was working with Horjovi Group, I had this experience to working with so many different vendors. And I saw, hi, hello, let me show my presentation, let me do the demo. I'm like, hey, hello. Did you ask the customer what they want to do?
Right.
And in the same time, I saw the role of sales engineer shifting a lot.
Mm.
So a combination of all three led me to the idea that I want to express. And it wasn't an easy challenge. It was a very interesting challenge. I'm not a writer, I'm a speaker. So it was also getting out of my comfort zone. And at least I made a few people happy. My dad was extremely happy with the book. But
Your
I'm,
dad?
yeah,
That's nice. Is he technical as well, or does he just
he
think that you
he
need to be better?
no, he's actually spent 45 years in programming space. So
Mhm.
he only retired a few years ago. So I have a lot of respect to him and
Nice.
how long he stayed a developer.
Wow, that's lovely. Good. Well, so when someone is thinking to themselves that I have a lot of great technical skills, I'm an expert, but I'm good at my job, but I just don't know if I'm being heard, or I feel like I'm not being heard. Where should they start? And is that in your book?
Book is interesting because there's a lot of ideas there, a lot of sales part, but I will start from simple things. One, sign up to Toastmasters. I
Mm.
think Toastmasters, not affiliated with Toastmasters,
Hmm.
is one of the best speaking and communication training for the money. You'll definitely learn quite a lot. Two, start record your ideas. So record your ideas, transcribe your ideas, and say, okay, listen to them. Get used to speak up your ideas. You can get feedback from friends. You can transcribe them. You can put them in AI and ask exactly. So I'm trying to describe this. Is this happening? Because again, we're not talking about specific communication. Now, as part of Toastmasters was a very interesting part because it's not just delivering a speech. I may need to do an introduction of a topic. I may need to do a debate of a topic. I may need to get to the point. So try to have a different way to consume or convey a message. This is one part I will do. Second part, try to analyze. You mentioned my voice or I'm not being heard. Why? Are you waiting? Are you mumbling? Are you unsure? You may don't know. Go to people, go find a mentor, go find a coach, somebody that you trust that will do it. And honestly, even so, maybe not go full way to coaches because there are so many coaches right now
Hmm.
and everybody trying to sell you something, a silver bullet. But friends, people you trust, people that you care, that not just going to sugarcoat you and try to help understand what are you doing wrong. Is there your real friends? They will give you some feedback and advice. After that, start working on my website. I have a bit of a called SSDP, like basically a framework to become better and learn to do, but start doing exercise. We spoke about describing, we spoke about talking, um, communicating to people on the street. It's sometimes hard, everybody has headphones, but talking to a cashier when you're buying groceries, try to make them smile. Small, small things to try. Next time you're on a call with a peer, are you going to jump right away to technical? And business, or you're going to have a small talk and try to understand, do you know how many kids they have? Do they have a dog? Do they have a hobby?
Hmm.
Imagine You joining a call and you remember that this person went to vacation. Like, hey, how was Costa Rica? What did you like in Costa Rica? It's actually an interesting question because how was Costa Rica? Is like, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Didn't lead the conversation anywhere. What did you like in Costa Rica? Now I can say waterfalls, or probably majority of the people will start elaborate and be a bit more open conversation. What was your favorite activity? So this is interesting about open and closed questions.
Yes.
People that having hard time with communicating usually asking in closed questions versus open questions. I can ask you, what is your favorite color? You'll tell me blue. I can ask, hey, can you describe what's your favorite color and why?
Yep.
One of the yeah, no. So okay, I'm gonna challenge you right now on the spot.
Okay.
We spoke about voices.
Yes.
Try to describe your voice.
Try to describe my voice. I think that sometimes it can sound kind of more sultry, and then other times it sounds more high pitched and excited when I'm more excited.
Think about this. Is it dominating? Is it forceful? Is it kind of more obstructive? It's just low. There's like multiple ways to describe your voice. And
Mhm.
it's a very strange exercise to do.
It's very hard to do, especially for
But
one's own voice.
yes, but the moment you start thinking about this, it's like, oh, is this my voice? Am I too high? If I'm too low, there's it's an interesting conversation. The person that helped me with my voice had a very interesting analogy. Like, think about that. Your voice is not on a leash like a dog you're trying to grab, you kind of trying to walk with you. No, you can control, you can change, you can shape it, and you can modify it. You need the correct support and feedback. And I do think that having a voice coach or like trainers help you understand and baseline with your voice will help you. And definitely breathing techniques to open up will help as well.
Absolutely. So I'll tell you a secret. One of my dream jobs is to read audiobooks, especially if they're audiobooks for children. And so I made my children listen to me read to them until they were teenagers. And I loved reading books where I had to have like a giant's voice or, the voice of a goose or a pig or a chicken, for example. And it's one of my favorite things to do is to do what you're saying in terms of controlling your voice or your accent or sounding like you've got a beak versus having like having like a
There's
being
some
enormous with like
amazing
a
people.
nose. Like I love that and I really appreciate the art of that. And I think what
This
we're
is art.
saying is
This is
that
art.
is that we can
Yes.
tie that and practice that in our everyday and that everyone's got the power to change how, their voice is sounding for people and they don't take advantage of that.
You actually, thank you for sharing. And you brought an interesting part that I would like to discuss. It's cyber related and related to presentation. So what you mentioned is very interesting. I actually hated to read aloud. Now it's different. But so here's the interesting part. If you're listening to us right now and you're doing demos of customer presentations, guess what? When you're reading from a screen, we can hear that. The energy is
Mm.
different.
Mhm.
It's completely different. If you need to present and you're doing a PowerPoint slides, better to say few words, but they're gonna come from your heart, versus you're gonna read and your eyes will shift somewhere up. We will hear it. It's losing this powerful. And what Amy is saying that if you got to the point that you can actually read audiobooks and you can inject this energy, it's different. But in majority of the cases, when we read and we don't have the correct program or correct readiness, we will sound differently and not on the same level of energy.
I think that's an excellent, excellent takeaway. It's very true, and that's a good thing to practice as well. Thank you for pulling that out. Excellent. That's a good thing to leave people with. A couple of
Yes.
things before we go. So, and then I have one last question for you. So, where can people find out more about the things that you've done and your book, and what would you encourage people to check out if they're interested in finding out more about how they can improve in this area?
So the book is softskillstech.com. Find me on LinkedIn, Evgeniy Kharam. Thanks God there's not too many Evgenys, so it's easy to find. I recently built my own domain, evgenykharam.com as well, where I'm starting putting information about my presentation skills and public speaking and the company that I'm working for, this on. This is probably the easiest things to do.
Great, excellent, thank you. And then, the other thing I wanted to ask you was that after all the time that you spent in cyber and in thinking about this topic, what is it that you understand about people now that you wish you'd understood when you were starting your career?
Everybody is different, and you cannot open everyone lock with the same key. Everybody is different, and you need to find the approach to every person. And you will have to do it majority of the time by yourself, because when you ask somebody else, it doesn't mean that their lock or their key will be similar to your key.
Amazing. I love it. Thank you so much, Evgeny. Really enjoyed our conversation today, and the stories that we've shared as well. I hope that people will take that away and check out what they can do to improve, because I think there's room for everyone to improve a little bit and to be more intentional about how they interact with others in this changing world of ours. So thank you so much. If you're not already a subscriber for to Wired for Change, please do consider subscribing, and please visit us again for more conversations about what's changing and what we can do. Take care. Bye bye.